In my previous life, my fiancé personally ordered the execution of my entire whole family so he could marry my sworn enemy. My childhood friend saved my life with his military merits. I thought he would be my salvation. Little did I know that he was the one who planted the forged evidence in my father's study. End. I was driven completely mad and met my end by drinking poison wine. When I opened my eyes again, I had forgotten everything from my past life and was once more the lively, cheerful young lady of the general's mansion. Yet the way they looked at me had changed. It turned out that everyone except me had been reborn. Main text. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, the most noble and upright young master of the chancellor's mansion in the capital, me fiancé, Shin Jun, went mad. In front of the entire hall of guests, he knelt stiffly before me and began slapping himself across the face. Smack, smack, smack. Each slap was harder than the last. As he struck himself, he counted aloud. His eyes filled with terror and remorse I could not fathom. The entire hall erupted in an uproar, and I was left speechless. Aren't you getting married tomorrow? I steeled myself and reached out to pull him up. Get up. Please. Let's talk this out. You're scaring me. Not only did he refuse to rise, but as I approached, he grew even more frantic. He began banging his head against the floor with a thud. 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 His jade-like face becoming a bloody mess. He muttered incoherently, Qian. I was wrong. I'm not human. Please don't torment me. Just then, a shriek rang out from behind me. A demon. You're a demon. My arch-rival. Xie capital's foremost literary genius who always looked down her nose at me was now deathly pale, pointing at me, her whole body shaking like a leaf. I glanced at Shinjuinhe. I did look like a ghost, but the direction she was pointing. Me. I flew into a minor rage on the spot and glared at her. She let out a strange, shrill scream, turned, and bolted out the door in a panic, crashing headfirst into the arms of my childhood friend, Lu Ji. I thought Lu Ji would fly into a rage. After all, my childhood friend had always had a fiery temper and hated it when people touched him. But the next second, he lowered his gaze to see who was in his arms. The hostility in his eyes faded, replaced by a hint of something I'd never seen before, tenderness. He called out softly, Big sister. He reached out to help her up. His hands stopped midway, frozen in place. Through the crowd of onlookers, our eyes met. Shock, pain, regret, fear. A whirlwind of emotions exploded in his eyes like a carousel of images. Then he dropped to his knees with a thud, got down on all fours, and began crawling toward me, looking just like an abandoned dog. Wait, are you all here today just to ruin my party? Xia Zhaoning, with no one to catch him, fell to the ground, unable to stand. He crawled, determined to break through, even if it meant crawling. And so, in full view of everyone, one crawled outward, rolling and scrambling as if a ghost were chasing him, while the other crawled inward, tears streaming down his face, his eyes burning with intensity. Now it was my turn to panic. I stumbled backward a few steps. You don't come over here. Heaven is my witness. I, Hua Qian, have always been kind and honest since childhood. I feel guilty for hours even after accidentally stepping on an ant. Anyone who didn't know better would think I'd done something terrible to those three. Ever since then, rumors have spread throughout the capital that they've lost their minds. I was afraid of catching it, so I hurried to the temple to burn incense. Back, keep my whole family safe. Help me avoid this. Perhaps my sincerity moved the heavens, for that very night, I had an immersive dream. I opened my eyes. Before me was a strange room, sparsely furnished, with yellowed window paper. An unfamiliar maidservant bowed her head and called out to me, Madam. Before I could process it, my body moved of its own accord. I took the food box, walked out the door, passed through a long corridor, and finally stopped outside a courtyard. Just as I was about to knock, Voices drifted out from within. Haven't you gotten it yet? Didn't you say Hu Qianqian had already fallen for you? It was Xinjun's voice, stripped of its usual warmth. Cold and calculating. She's in a daze all day long. The moment the Hu family is mentioned, she goes berserk. Her mind's gone, she can't remember anything. The other voice, laced with impatience, belonged to my childhood friend, Lu Ji. If you can't handle it, you might as well leave it to me. Xinjuan has said indifferently. You're dreaming. The sound of a teacup shattering echoed, and Lu Ji's tone turned icy. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. I'm warning you, don't you dare let my sister down. Xinjuan let out a derisive snort. Humph. Why do you doubt my sincerity? To marry Zhao Ning. I personally had the entire Hu family executed, and I did the same. Lu Ji's voice was hoarse, as if they were competing to see who was more ruthless. If my elder sister hadn't insisted on marrying you, why would I have helped you forge those letters accusing the Hu family of treason? All I've ever wanted in this life is for my elder sister to be happy. I stood outside the door, my head buzzing, my hands and feet ice cold. They actually joined forces to set a trap, destroying my family and leaving us all dead. I instinctively tried to kick the door down, only to find I couldn't control my body. Inside my body, I was frantic, screaming wildly, Lao Ji, what are you doing? Go on. Rip their heads off and use them as chamber pots. My body remained motionless. A breeze blew by, cooling my face. Only then did I realize I was crying. Why am I crying? I was frustrated that he wasn't living up to his potential, but my body just stood there, for a very, very long time. Then turned and walked away. I watched Lao Ji from above, filled with disappointment. Lu Ji was a little beggar I'd picked up off the street when I was a child, just because of his pretty face. I spoiled him into the most spoiled teenager in the capital. He never liked to talk about his background, only saying he came from Jiangzhou to find his older sister. Xie Xiaoning had been wandering the streets since childhood and was only reunited with the Xie family 3 years ago. So she was the moonlight been pining for all this time. And Xinjun Hu grew up together, betrothed since childhood. Just yesterday, he spent a fortune on a beautiful white foal from the western regions as a gift for my comingafage ceremony. Yet in my dream, he claimed he had personally razed my family's home to the ground in order to marry Xie Xiaoning. The dream felt so vividly real that, at this very moment, I already hated them with a passion. The scene shifted, and I found myself back in the room from before. Before long, Lu Ji appeared at the doorway, with striking features and skin whiter than snow. He was the very picture of a fully blossomed beauty. Xiao Lu, I heard my own voice exclaim with delight. He held a bowl of dark, murky medicine, his expression gentle. Yet his eyes held not a trace of a smile. Qianqian, it's time for your medicine. I brought some candied fruit, your favorite. I've always found that handsome face irresistible. I'd often get dizzy just looking at him. I'd agree to whatever he said without really thinking, which used to make Lu Ji angry all the time. But now, looking at that face again, an intense wave of hatred surged from the depths of my heart. Suddenly, I found this former playmate utterly repulsive. I wanted nothing more than to take a pair of scissors and slash his face to shreds, then release 100 insects to gnaw at him. It's not enough. It's still not enough. I shook my head, in just a few breaths of shock. I'd already conceived so many thoughts of tormenting Lu Ji. Did they come from this body? Xiao Lu, I heard myself speak, my voice trembling with tears. I don't want to drink it. Good girl. Call me husband. He held the bowl of medicine to my lips. His movements were gentle, yet carried an air of finality. I reached out and took it anyway. Then I looked at my wrist. It was covered in a dense network of scars. My tendons had been severed. Even lifting my hand was a struggle. Only now did I realize just how heavy and weak my body had become. My inner energy was gone. I had become a helpless wreck, at the mercy of others. Lao Ji, How did you let yourself come to this? The medicine tasted bitter as hell the moment it touched my tongue. I gagged, ready to vomit, but my body didn't react at all. I felt a deep sorrow. Old G, have you grown so accustomed to suffering? A piece of candied fruit was shoved into my mouth. Lu Ji's face drew closer, closer and closer. His lips were a deep crimson, his gaze hazy. My body finally obeyed my will, and with a sharp smack, I slapped him across the face. Lu Ji was taken aback. A red mark appeared on his porcelain white face. He regained his composure. As our eyes met, his smile suddenly turned cold. You still haven't learned your lesson. Could it be that you only obey when he's around? He stroked my head, his thin lips curling into a sneer. Then turned to order the servants. There's no need to bring dinner to the lady tonight. The main door slammed shut with a clang. The sound of the lock clicking echoed, and the room was instantly plunged into utter darkness. Oh no, he knows exactly how to manipulate me. Almost at the same moment, a wave of hunger washed over me. The room was silent. I fished a pill from under the bed. It gave off an indescribable odor. I glanced warily around before quickly swallowing it. This time it was pain in every bone and muscle. Why is there a second round? The next morning, I woke up crying. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw the familiar four-poster bed. I touched my hands, they were unharmed. My inner energy was full, and every part of my body felt fine. I didn't even have time to put on my shoes. I rushed out like a madwoman, hugging my father, mother, and brother one by one to make sure they were all safe. Only then did my heart settle, and the tears kept streaming down my face. The whole family was baffled, staring at each other in confusion. My brother nudged me. Spill it, little sis. What kind of trouble have you gotten into this time? Don't do this, you're giving me the creeps. Mother smacked him on the back of the head. Watch your mouth. You brat. That slap actually sparked a brainwave in his pig-like brain, and he analyzed the situation with great seriousness. Could it be that you had a falling out with Shinjuinha and only remembered us now? Usually at this time, you'd already be scrounging breakfast at the Shin household. I was actually at a loss for words. Just how love-struck was I back then? Hey! He suddenly waved at me from behind, grinning and winking. Lu Ji's here. Come help me check on Qianqian, must have taken the wrong medicine today. She's acting so out of character. Lu Ji. My head exploded with a loud boom. It was bad enough that I couldn't move in my dreams. But in real life, who wouldn't want to beat the crap out of him? Qian. Lu Ji looked at me, a gleam flashing in his eyes as he opened his arms slightly. Full of anticipation, my response was a powerful kick, followed by punch after punch. Qian, why are you picking on Lu Ji again? Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to understand why I'd suddenly lost my mind. Lu Ji was beaten beyond recognition. His handsome face was swollen like a pig's head, but far from being angry, he was actually smiling happily. His dark eyes never left me as he gasped for breath. His voice hoarse and raspy. Qian, you're back too. Isn't that right? I understood instantly. So these three idiots had all been reborn. Only I, through my dreams, knew what had happened in our past lives. I stopped my fists, stood over him, and pressed my foot down on his chest, laughing coldly. Lu Ji, did you owe me a lot in our past life? Otherwise, why do I feel the urge to beat you to death the moment I see you? He froze. His expression looked like he was about to cry. Everyone pulled me away, trying to calm me down. He broke free from those holding him back, stumbled over, and grabbed my hand. It's okay. You can do whatever you want to me. Don't hate me. Can we start over? Yet his whole body was trembling. He was afraid of me. I didn't know why, but in my dreams, it was the other way around. I was the one afraid of him. I shook him off and wiped the spot head touched with disgust. His face went pale in an instant. His long lashes trembled as they drooped. and he let out a faint, choked sob. Miss. When Zhu came running out, panting. I've been looking for you for ages. Did you forget you had plans to go out with Mr. Shin today? Don't go. Me sleeve was grabbed, and a low, pleading voice came from beside me. Touch me again and I'll chop off your hand. I had not a shred of patience for him. Those words were like a switch. His eyes widened instantly. A huff sound escaped his throat. He curled up into a ball, kneeling on the ground, trembling uncontrollably, like a dog beaten into submission. I gave a scornful laugh and turned back into the house. Go to the meeting. My ass. The thought of Shinjuinha made a flash of cruelty flicker in my eyes. A moonless, windy night, a night for killing. I put on my night attire, grabbed my knife, and for the first time, didn't go through the main gate of the Shin mansion. Stepping along the eaves, I slipped into Shinjun's room with the ease of someone who knew the way. The room was pitch black, but I could find the bed with my eyes closed. Back then, I'd designed most of the furnishings here myself. Now, I thrust my knife toward the head of the bed. There was none of the sensation I'd expected of the blade sinking into flesh. I pulled back the covers. No one was there. Only a note. By the moonlight, I made out the words, Qian Qian. My heart has never wavered. In this life, I will never let you down. Watch out for Lu Ji. Damn it. It's like everyone's been given the script in advance. Fuming with rage, I slunk back home. That night, I climbed into bed. That familiar sensation returned. Great. Is there a sequel to this dream? Xia Zhaoning stood before me, looking down at me with eyes full of disdain and pity. Hua Qian, you really don't learn. Still think you're the young miss of the Hua family. The next second, her hand slapped across my face, stinging fiercely. I trembled with rage and instinctively wanted to strike back, but my body still wouldn't obey me. Damn hands, move already. I felt as helpless as a sleeping wife. Xia Zhaoning savored my humiliation, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. That triumphant expression was all too familiar to me. At every gathering, after Shed recited a poem something like the waters of the great river come from the heavens, rushing to the sea never to return, the entire room would be awestruck. And Shed wear that exact look. Damn it. I can't stand these pretentious people. If she truly possessed the magnanimity described in those verses, she wouldn't constantly treat me like a rival. She and Shinjuinha were kindred spirits who found each other amidst the low mountains and murky waters, growing closer through their discussions of poetry. Right now, Shinjuinha stood right beside her, the two of them inseparable. His appearance hadn't changed much, though he now exuded a greater sense of composure and poise than before. I only found out later that by this time, he had already become the all-powerful chancellor. He didn't even glance at me, gently taking her hand and blowing on it. Aining, did you hurt your hand? Oh, hand hurts bro. I vowed to myself that when I got back, I'd make him slap himself in the face 100 times the moment he saw me. Just then, my body moved suddenly, and I darted toward the doorway like a young swallow returning to its nest. Lu Ji had barely stepped inside when I threw my arms around him. Xiao Lu, while you were gone, they all picked on me. I tilted my face up at him, looking both dependent and aggrieved, but Lu Ji frowned, pulled me away from his embrace, and snapped. Qian, have you been acting spoiled again? Haha. Xia Zhaoning, you're something else. Both of these dogs are so protective of their master. She hit me, but I didn't hit her back. Isn't that good of me? I cupped his hand and pressed it against my swollen cheek, rubbing it gently. Lu Ji pulled his hand away as if it were scalding, his tone stern. You'd better reflect on this. Why would Big Sister hit you for no reason? His eyes were fixed solely on Xia Zhaoning. Shinjuinha, standing nearby, actually looked at me, perhaps because we've known each other for so many years. He's never seen me like this before. Docile, submissive, like a cat that's retracted its claws. To be honest, I haven't seen myself like this either. What on earth has that damn Lu Ji turned me into? Xia Zhanning's maid stepped forward. Madame Lu went crazy the moment she saw the jade pendant. She lunged right at it. She even shoved our young mistress. Xia Zhanning's face took on a look of vulnerability just in time, her eyes reddening as she struggled to speak. Lu Ji's expression hardened instantly, and he scolded me by name. Hu Qianqian, how dare you snatch your elder sister's belongings? Give it back and apologize to her. I clutched the jade pendant, refusing to let go, and kept repeating, no way. It's mine, mine. Lu Ji narrowed his eyes, a warning in his gaze. Are you being disobedient again? I burst into tears with a wail and shouted at Xia Zhanning. You stingy little thing. You said this is my mother's jade pendant. So why won't you give it to me when I want it? If it's my mother's, doesn't that make it mine too? Are you my mother's daughter too? Why are you glaring at me? I'm not lying. As I spoke, I tugged at Lu Ji's sleeve and pointed at her. Look, Xiao Lu, she's being mean to me. Xia Zhanning's face turned pale and green. She clearly hadn't expected me to speak so bluntly. Shut up. I didn't. Lu Ji's face darkened as he clamped down on my wrist with such force it felt like he was trying to crush my bones, trying to force me to let go of the jade pendant. Stop making a scene. Give the jade pendant to big sister. And I'll buy you an even prettier one. Xia Zhanning curled the corners of her mouth, a hint of smugness in her eyes. I stared at him and shouted, Xiao Lu, why are you taking that tightwad side instead of mine? Do you like her? But she and that ice-cold guy are the perfect match. I pointed at Xia Zhanning, then at Qin Juanhe. Qin Juanhe, having been called out, shot Lu Ji a dismissive glance. Xia Zhanning leaned against him, looking awkward. It was laughable. That clown. Lu Ji. She has a husband. Yet here you are, jumping around like a madman. Nonsense. Lu Ji, caught between anger and embarrassment, tightened his grip on my wrist, but I turned my head and began retching, until my vision went dark. He froze for a moment, thinking I was faking it, and instinctively checked my pulse. A few seconds later, his expression grew complex. Qianqian, you're pregnant. The moment those words left his mouth, the room fell silent. Taking advantage of his frozen stance, I wriggled free from his grip, fastened the jade pendant around my neck, and patted it triumphantly. Xia Zhanning looked a bit embarrassed. She forced a smile and said, trying to save face, since that's the case, let's just consider it a gift from me to Xiao Ji. As she spoke, her gaze toward Lu Ji held a hint of resentment. Once we reached the street, I saw the sign for Yangzhou restaurant glistening in the setting sun not far ahead. Why had we come all the way from the capital to Yangzhou? Xia Zhanning's maids were whispering about me nearby, loud enough for me to hear. Humph. General Lu didn't even want to bring her along. If it weren't for Miss Kindness, that ungrateful wretch would have snatched the very thing Miss had her eye on. How dare she? A fool is a fool. We won't bother with her. Everyone knows how close Miss Xia and General Lu are. What does she even think she is? Another maid shot me a disdainful glance. ID noticed that a long time ago. Xiao Lu was the nickname I used to call Lu Ji when I was little. I stopped using it once I grew up. Lao Ji was exactly as they describe it, a fool. And why not? If she weren't a fool, how could she live with such a carefree, reckless attitude? Given my former temperament, I would have fought to the bitter end. Later I learned that Lao Ji had fought to the bitter end before, and the result was having his limbs twisted off and his martial arts crippled. Xia Zhanning once recited the line, in the 3rd month of spring, I journeyed to Yangzhou. Ever since then, people all over the world have been filled with longing for her and for the Yangzhou described in the poem. I thought smoke and flowers meant exactly that, fireworks, and at the time, I looked down on it, wondering why anyone would go all the way to Yangzhou just to see fireworks. Qin Juanhe explained in a soft, gentle voice. The smoke and flowers is not the same as those fireworks. It describes the spring scenery of Yangzhou. His eyes sparkled with a delicate light. But it wasn't directed at Might, was directed at Xia Zhaoning. Has Xia Zhaoning been to Yangzhou? I asked. She's barely 28 though, could she have been everywhere? Lonely smoke rises straight in the desert. The setting sun rounds the long river. She's been to the desert. I'd eat 300 lychees a day and never mind staying in Lingnan forever. She's been to Lingnan. And now. She hasn't missed out on this part of Jiangnan either. Miss Xia must have had many adventures before she was recognized and taken back into the Xia family. Qin Juanhe instinctively defended her. I said nothing, burying my head to continue gnawing on the pork hock. Thinking back now, it turns out there had been signs between the two of them all along. That night, the inn where we were staying caught fire. Lu Ji frantically woke me up, dragging me out, but the fire spread too quickly. By the time we stepped out of our room, the floor below had already been engulfed in a sea of flames. Help! Xia Zhaning's panicked scream came from the room next door. Big sis. Lu Ji panicked instantly, without a second thought. He instinctively let go of my hand, turned, and charged into the inferno, not even looking back. Watching his back disappear into the flames, I felt a strange sense of relief, as if I'd been through this countless times before and had long since grown numb to it. Flames surged up from below, and a wave of scorching heat washed over me. The second floor was already engulfed in flames. I was still panicking, but Lao Ji didn't sit idly by. He turned and rushed back into the room, threw open the window, and leaped out without hesitation. I heard the sound of bones snapping, followed by excruciating pain spreading throughout my body. Dragging her broken leg, she crawled inch by inch away from the fire, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground. Over there, Lu Ji and Qin Juanhe had settled Xia Zhaoning, who had fainted from shock. Where's Hu Qianqian? Qin Juanhe suddenly asked. Lu Ji looked as if had just remembered something. The blood in his veins froze instantly. Lu Ji. Qin Jun's veins bulged as he roared. She's still useful. Why do you always abandon her? I've got Zhaoning here, you needn't worry about her. Lu Ji nearly stumbled as he charged toward the inferno. But by then the entire inn was engulfed in raging flames. No matter how skilled he was in martial arts, he couldn't break through the flames. How could a fool like her possibly escape? Blood flowed endlessly from beneath me. I struggled to roll over, completely exhausted, and stared blankly at the vast night sky dotted with twinkling stars. My feelings were complicated. I had refused to accept the pregnancy when I first found out. Yet this child hadn't even survived a single episode. Lu Ji arrived just in time to witness this harrowing scene. A trail of blood snaked across the floor. I lay in a pool of it, my legs bent at an unnatural angle. He staggered a few steps. His legs gave way, and he knelt down. Tears fell one by one onto me, his eyes filled with the ecstasy of a long-lost treasure found again. Qian, I'm so sorry, I forgot you'd lost all your inner energy. He tremblingly lifted me up, a sob escaping his throat. I'm truly worthless. I'm not even fit to be called a beast. It's okay, the child is still. His words trailed off. He looked down in disbelief. At that moment, a dagger gleaming with a cold light was lodged in his chest. I was stunned too. Huh, you switched faces without telling me. I heard myself say. Die. You idiot. I twisted my wrist, driving the blade deeper. Lu Ji's expression was a mix of shock and pain. Qian, are you trying to kill me? Meeting my gaze, he grew even more flustered. Do you hate me? I didn't waste any words on him. I released the dagger, seized the opportunity to shove a pill into his mouth, then flipped him over and pinned him firmly to the ground, covering his mouth. His eyes widened as he struggled like a pig, but I don't know where I found the strength. I held him down with all my might, muttering impatiently. Damn, he's hard to kill. Lu Ji froze, staring blankly at me, as if had seen the ruthlessness in my eyes. His beautiful eyes filled with immense pain and sorrow. and tears streamed down his face. His struggles gradually weakened until he stopped struggling altogether. His gaze grew vacant, as if had drifted into a distant memory. His throat moved, and he swallowed the pill on his own. A few breaths later, Lu Ji kicked out with his legs and died. I inwardly cheered. Ha ha. No wonder the outhouse was clogged. Turns out old Ji had filled it to the brim. In a daze, I was pulled into someone's embrace. All the indifference in Shinjun's eyes vanished, replaced by sheer panic. He bellowed at his subordinates. Quick, go find a doctor. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no. Did someone witness the murder? But the secret guard glanced at me and stated with certainty, My lord, General Lu's fatal wound is in his chest. It was inflicted by a martial artist. Therefore, this was likely not a crime of passion committed by Lady Lu. Shin Juinhe replied coldly. Tell me something I don't know. Me. How clever of him ruling out the correct answer right off the bat. Impressive. Just then, countless men in black descended from the sky, surrounding us. The scene instantly descended into chaos. Amidst the turmoil, I closed my eyes in peace. When I woke again, when Ju was still half asleep, startled by the lingering murderous intent in my eyes. Miss, what's wrong? She stammered. Nothing. I reassured her. Rolling out of bed and heading straight for the study, Father was reading a military treatise. As I entered, he was about to speak, but I grabbed his shoulder. Father, search the study thoroughly. Every letter, secret dispatch, and ledger. Don't miss a single word. Don't ever trust Lu Ji again. That man is nothing but an ungrateful wretch. Don't believe a single word he says, not even a single punctuation mark. Father froze. Then a flash of understanding crossed his eyes. He patted my shoulder. All right. I'll do as you say. As soon as I stepped out, Lu Ji emerged from the corner like a ghost, blocking my path. His handsome face was deathly pale, his lips chapped, his eyes sunken. The moment he saw me, his eyes instantly reddened. Qian. I didn't do anything. I burned all the forged letters. I'll never betray you again in this lifetime. Let's live happily together. Okay. Oh, Mr. Fu. So you can be reborn after all. I kicked him hard in the groin, sending him sprawling to the ground. Then ground the sole of my shoe into the back of his hand. Live with me. Do you even deserve it? Only then did he realize, in this life, he had yet to achieve any official rank or title. To put it bluntly, he was nothing more than a beggar living off others' charity. What right did he have to even think of forming a relationship with me, the legitimate daughter of the Hu family? I'm sorry, Qian. Hit me, scold me, punish me however you like. Just don't abandon me. He lay face down on the ground, not daring to lift his head, his voice trembling uncontrollably. My husband's revenge has been exacted, but mine remains unavenged. To me, Lu Ji is already a dead man. Oh, I smiled, bending down to pat his face. Really? You'll let me punish you however I please? He nodded frantically, his eyes lighting up like a dog that had spotted a bone tossed by its master. I straightened up and coldly ordered the servants. Tie him up. Sever every tendon in his hands and feet. Sell him to the Chu people's house or the military brothel, either will do. He froze instantly, looking up at me in disbelief. Qian, what did you say? In his past life, wasn't he the one who cared most about his military merits? Desperate to prove himself to Xia Zhaoning, in this life, he'll make sure he can't even ride a horse. Still wants to be a general. In his dreams, he's only fit to be ridden by men. After dealing with Lu Ji, I sharpened my knife and prepared to head straight for the Shin residence. This guy is too cunning. He absolutely must not be spared. I ran into my brother around the corner. Where are you going? His expression was a bit strange as he blocked my path. To pull off a big heist. I gave a mysterious smile and was about to bolt out the door. Then, I was knocked unconscious by a chop to the head. Before passing out, I gave my brother the middle finger with all my might. Damn it. What a useless teammate. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in that body. Shin Juin-ha used the excuse of taking care of his brother's widow, that is. Mito bring me back to the Shin mansion. He treated me incredibly well, asking after my every need, being exceptionally gentle, and even causing Xia Xiaoning to misunderstand that had reignited his old feelings for me, leading to a cold war between the two of them. I saw right through it. He was exactly like Lu Ji back then, just playing along with me for the sake of the half-tiger token on my person. I really don't get it. Is making me fall in love with you the only way you know how to manipulate me? I acted crazy and foolish every day, screaming that I wanted to see Lu Ji. If I couldn't see him, I'd smash things. Nothing worked. Not even Shin Juin-ha. Qian. Shin Juin-ha pushed open the door and softened his voice. It's me. His greeting was met by a flying teacup. He dodged to the side, his expression darkening, but he still walked over and grabbed my shoulders. Qian. Look at me. I'm your Juin-ha. I pushed and kicked with all my might. Don't you dare touch me. I don't want you. I want Xiao Lu. Just kidding, I don't want Lu Ji either. Shin Jun's expression shifted. His voice strained. Qian, you're sick. You've forgotten so much. You can't tell the difference between love and dependence. Didn't you used to love me the most? Can't we go back to the way we were before? Are you deaf? Get lost. I shoved him away without mercy. I hate you. You're in cahoots with that stingy bastard. Shin Juin-ha stumbled back a step from my shove. His expression hurt. Qian, if Lu Ji hadn't meddled so ruthlessly, I intended to welcome you into the family as a cowwife. Pfft. Nothing but leftovers no one wants. My entire Hu family was purged. And after I became the daughter-in-law of a convicted minister, forget being a cowwife even as a concubine. I'd only be a lowly one. But I, Hu Qian, was meant to live a life of happiness and fulfillment. It's all because of you people. Just then, a servant ran in with a delighted expression. Xia Xiaoning had detected a pulse of pregnancy. Incense wafted gently from the censer, and every piece of furniture in the room exuded understated luxury. Xia Xiaoning leaned against a soft pillow embroidered with gold thread. It's been over a month. A gentle expression spread across her face as she gently stroked her belly. She looked as though she were living in a world of peace and tranquility. Shin Juin-ha, who was usually calm and composed, found his breathing uneven. He wrapped his arms around Xia Xiaoning and said, as if she were a precious treasure, Aining, I am overjoyed as well. Oh, Mr. Joyful. Just a moment ago he was flirting with me, and now they're already expecting a child. Shin Juin-ha and Xia Xiaoning were so immersed in their happiness that they completely forgot I was there. I inappropriately stepped forward, curiously reaching out to touch her belly. Xia Xiaoning let out a shriek and swatted my hand away with a sharp smack. Shin Juin-ha frowned, taking my side for once. Qian's mind is like that of a child right now, and she's just had a miscarriage. Don't take it personally. See, even my enemy thinks I'm pitiful. Xia Xiaoning, however, sneered coldly. Child. She's clearly just a madwoman. She pointed at me, her eyes brimming with hatred. I don't believe Lu Ji would have died to save her. He didn't love her at all, if you ask me. She just went mad from the fire and ended up killing Lu Ji. I was stunned. The process was all wrong, yet the conclusion was somehow right. She lost control and screamed at me. Why wasn't it you who died? Why are you still alive? Don't you know that no one in this world Shin Juin-ha clamped his hand over her mouth, his expression hardening for the first time as he scolded her. Enough. It's been confirmed that the fire that night was the work of the Prince of Qing. Xia Xiaoning pushed him away, her eyes red as she demanded. You're yelling at me for her sake. Shin Juin-ha pinched the bridge of his nose. Aining, Qian was pregnant at the time, and General Lu was only thinking of the child. At the mention of the child, he paused. Xia Xiaoning's eyes darted downward, staring at my belly as if she could bore a hole through it. She gave a strange laugh. Ha ha. A child. He actually dared to touch you. I blinked. Xiao Lu loves playing with me. I clapped my hands and laughed. Innocent and carefree. I love babies. I want lots and lots of babies. The moment those words left my mouth, Xie Zhaoning and Xinzhen's expressions darkened. A vein throbbed at the temple of Xinzhen's forehead. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. His face betraying a sense of frustration had only shown back when he used to tutor me in my studies. I tugged at his sleeve and continued to play dumb. Where did Xiao Lu go? Why hasn't he come to take me home yet? He didn't answer, merely ordering his subordinate coldly. Take her back. As he turned away, I saw his hand inside his sleeve, clenched so tightly that his knuckles had turned white. That night, a man in black suddenly appeared at the windowsill and whispered, "My master sent me to tell you, miss, that he's dug the body up. The person is awake now. At the Prince Cheng's mansion. Do with them as you please." I lowered my gaze and ordered coldly, "Bury a decoy in his place. Qin Juinhe is the shrewdest of men. He might open the coffin to inspect the body." The man in black took his leave and vanished. Watching everything unfold from within my own body, I stared in disbelief. What does this mean? Lu Xi isn't dead. So that pill was a fake death potion. And who is the Prince of Qing? I had a flood of questions. That night, the Chancellor's residence was besieged by wave after wave of assassins. A subordinate reported, "My lord. They were the Prince of Qing's men. There was no damage to the study or the lattice courtyard. Forgive my incompetence, I failed to take any prisoners." They withdrew suddenly. Qin Juinhe fell into deep thought. This meant the enemy had succeeded. But what exactly had he overlooked? Waith suddenly remembered something. "Did you station men at Hu Qianqian's residence?" The subordinate knelt. "There are, but according to your previous instructions, the security there is relatively weak." Qin Juinhe sprang to his feet. "Where are the men there? Why haven't they come to report yet?" By this time, I was already at Prince Cheng's mansion. As soon as I stepped inside, a man who looked like a steward approached me. "Miss, His Highness asked me to convey his regards. I need to inspect the goods. Please, miss." The dungeon, damp, dim, and the stench of blood hit me like a wave. Lu Xi hung from chains, looking utterly bedraggled, with dried mud caked to his body. I nodded. "No problem." The steward led the guards away. In the blink of an eye, the dungeon was left with just the two of us. Lu Xi heard my voice and struggled to lift his head. When he saw it was me, his eyes instantly reddened. "Qianqian. I never thought I'd see you again. Am I dreaming?" He struggled to walk toward me, the chains clanking loudly. I stood my ground, gazing at him with a distant look in my eyes. As our eyes met, he slowly stopped in his tracks. Seemingly afraid to come any closer, he managed to speak with great difficulty. You remember everything. So he felt guilty after all. Ha! I laughed out loud, flicking my blade in a graceful flourish as I walked toward him step by step. "Husband, why don't you guess what fate awaits you in my hands?" My voice carried a chill, mixed with a strange excitement. 2 hours later, Lu Xi was a bloody, mangled mess, barely recognizable as human. His breath was faint, and his face etched with regret. "Do you hate me this much? Is it because of the Hu family?" But I clamped my hand around his chin, slapped him hard across the face twice, and said in a chilling voice, "No, it's because you tore me apart from Brother Juinhe. I could have married him. You wretch. Why did you have to come between us? What?" His expression froze, and his clouded eyes suddenly cleared. It was as if he'd heard some tall tale. "Is that all it was?" I nodded. "Yes, that's exactly why." He forced a smile that looked worse than a cry. "You're lying, right? That's not funny." But when he met my serious gaze, he fell silent again. Gradually, his expression twisted, and he could no longer contain himself. Shouting angrily, he personally wiped out your entire Hua family. How can you love him? How can you face the souls of the Hua family's dead? Before he could finish, I slapped him across the face. Shut up. You're the one who should be ashamed. Have you forgotten what you've done? If it weren't for your frame-up, I would have married brother Juinhe long ago, with full legitimacy. You fool. He doesn't love you at all, only did it to marry Xia Zhaoning. A cold smile hung on his lips as he stared intently at my expression. His teeth clenched, seemingly on the verge of breaking down. How could you do this? Tears streamed down his face involuntarily, as if learning the truth behind it all was more agonizing than death itself. You're a love-struck fool. Does that mean I'm not allowed to be one too? I couldn't stop laughing. Watching his old JIS act of playing the fool drove him to the point of coughing up blood. What gives you the right to talk to me like that? You good for nothing. Why didn't you just marry Xia Zhaoning? Don't you like her? Why did you let her marry my brother Juinhe? You've got a pretty face for nothing. I slapped him again with my left hand while brandishing a knife in front of his face with my right. Do you even have a heart left? He coughed up another mouthful of blood and muttered, trembling. Then what about all these years we've spent together? What do they amount to? What are you, anyway? How dare you compare yourself to brother Juinhe? The next second, I gripped the knife and slashed viciously across his face. Lu Ji let out a heart-wrenching scream, thrashing wildly within his chains, only to be met with deeper agony. Finally, his voice hoarse, he stared at me in terror, as if had seen a demon. He finally believed that everything I'd said was true. Actually, it was all a lie. I couldn't even bring myself to feel disgust for Shen Juinhe. But Lu Ji cared most about his own ridiculous pride. His white moonlight had married Shen Juinhe, and even his own wife whom he never truly wanted to marry called and stopped thinking about Shen Juinhe. Look at him, completely shattered. Lu Ji. Oh Lu Ji, I don't want to hear your pitiful apologies or confessions. I just want to see you suffer, despair, and tremble with fear. Husband, shall I bring Xia Zhaoning to you? That way, I can have Juinhe all to myself. Hee hee. Shut up, you crazy woman. He finally snapped, cursing furiously, his eyes red with rage. Yes, that's the look. I've waited this long just to see that look in my enemy's eyes. It sent a shiver of ecstasy down my spine. At that very moment, I woke up. This time, I'd stayed over there too long. When I opened my eyes, I was still a bit dazed. When Zhu wept with joy. Miss, you're finally awake. You've been unconscious for several days. Mother sat at my bedside, stroking my temples, her eyes filled with heartache and complex emotions. It dawned on me instantly Mother had been reborn too. Don't blame your brother. He returned a little earlier than we did. He didn't want you to ruin this life by acting on the hatred from your past life. Don't try to shoulder everything alone. When it comes to the crisis facing the Hua clan, let's face it together as a family. You must take good care of yourself in this life. Mother was incredibly gentle as she patted my hand. Her words brought a lump to my throat. Your father wouldn't stop you from doing anything. Go ahead and do what you must. He's died once already. He's come to terms with it. The Hua family had been a line of generals for generations. In his previous life, my father had loyalty to the emperor ingrained in his very bones. He shed blood and gave his life for the country, only to die in the end on trumped-up charges. It was truly a pitiful end. Miss, when Zhu massaged my shoulders and neck, have something sweet. You've been in such a bad mood these past few days, with everyone I loved by my side. I could hold back no longer. I threw my arms around Mother and wept aloud. I saw Xia Zhaoning again at the palace banquet. She sat at the table, her head bowed low, doing her utmost to make herself as inconspicuous as possible. Shen Juinhe was there as well. He paused as he passed by me, gave me a deep look, and spoke of his own accord. Whether you believe it or not, I never truly intended to take your life. In our past life, We're even. In this one. Shall we start anew? He thought I had been reborn too. I ignored him, instead pondering his words. What did he mean by we're even? How could my boundless hatred ever be settled? Unless I made him pay for his crimes with his own blood in my past life. Above us, Consort Liao was feeding wine into the tyrant's mouth. The empress sat beside her, her face ashen. The tyrant, thoroughly intoxicated, waved his hand. Where is that talented young lady from the Xie family? Come, compose a poem to liven things up. All eyes in the hall turned to Xie Zhaoning. In the past, she would have calmly risen to her feet, ready to dazzle the entire audience, but now her face was pale, her hand trembling as she held the brush, unable to write a single character. Seeing her hesitate for so long, everyone assumed she was holding back a grand revelation, and they couldn't help but hold their breath in anticipation. Of everyone present, only Shinjuinhe and I remained composed. He lowered his gaze. His eyes no longer followed her every move as they once had. Xie Zhaoning cast a subtle glance my way, clenched her teeth, and finally spoke. Daming Lake is vast and wide. Lotus flowers bloom within its waters. Upon the lotus leaves sits a toad. Poke it, and it hops away. The room fell silent for a moment, then erupted in thunderous laughter. Xie Zhaoning remained unfazed. Instead, she turned her gaze toward me, her eyes betraying a hint of flattery. As the laughter died down, I rose to my feet, gathered the hem of my skirt, and walked to the center of the hall, bowing before the tyrannical ruler on the dragon throne. I spoke in a clear, resonant voice. Your Majesty is wise and enlightened. This humble maiden has a request to make. This humble maiden and the young master of the Prime Minister Shin's household share little karmic bond and are ill-suited to one another. Your Majesty is benevolent. I humbly beg you to grant permission for this humble maiden to dissolve the betrothal with young Master Shin. The entire hall fell silent. Everyone was stunned. No one had expected me to publicly call off the betrothal with the Prime Minister's household, a marriage that so many would kill to secure. Only the tyrant laughed out loud. Very well. I grant it. Qin Jun's face drained of color. His hand trembled, causing him to drop his teacup, nearly causing a breach of etiquette before the throne. I didn't even glance at him. I simply turned and returned to my seat. What a thrill finally doing what I couldn't in my past life. A scumbag. Stay away from me. Just then, a eunuch announced in a shrill voice. His Royal Highness Prince Ching has arrived. From afar, I saw a figure step into the hall, tall and graceful, with the slender build of a pine tree and the delicate bones of a crane. Upon closer inspection, I realized he was strikingly handsome, unlike Lu Ji's flamboyant beauty. He resembled an orchid in a secluded valley, cool, aloof, and otherworldly. He wore a cloak and a long robe. His complexion was pale, almost translucent, giving him a frail, sickly appearance that evoked pity. It was Prince Ching, Xiao Ran. In my past life, I seemed to have had a rather close relationship with him. His gaze swept past the crowd in the hall, landing directly on me, and he suddenly curved his lips into a smile, like a night-blooming flower. He instantly dazzled the entire hall with his radiance. It wasn't until he had bowed his thanks and taken his seat that I snapped back to reality. I narrowed my eyes. In my past life, shouldn't he still be in his fiefdom at this time? Well, so it turns out I'm the only one who hasn't been reborn. Entering the dream again was second nature. When I opened my eyes once more, I found myself at the edge of a cliff, the mountain wind howling. I was tied with ropes, and beside me stood Xie Zhaoning, bound hand and foot. Standing between us was a man wearing a white ghost mask, twirling a dagger in his hand as he casually gazed across the cliff. On the other side stood Xinjun's men, archers with arrows. Knocked tension was palpable. Chancellor, today I'll give you a choice. Which one do you want? Your lawful wife, or your childhood sweetheart? I wanted to laugh. What a cliché plot. Such a melodramatic scene. I knew exactly what was going on. Qin Juinhe would definitely choose me, because I'm the villainous female supporting character in situations like this. The female lead is usually the one who gets left behind. Sure enough. I choose Qianqian, Qin Juinhe said, his voice hoarse. Juinhe heard my own voice. Filled with emotion, Xia Zhanning's eyes widened in disbelief. Qin Juinhe, I'm carrying your child. You said your relationship with her was just a charade. I choose Qianqian. Qin Juinhe cut her off, his voice even more resolute. He looked at me, his gaze intense, burning, and deeply affectionate. It was fake. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the half-tiger token on my body. Xia Zhanning's face turned deathly pale, her body swaying as if about to collapse. Her gaze toward me was filled with venom. Hua Qianqian, you've won. He wiped out your entire Hua family, and he's always felt guilty toward you. I made Lu Ji marry you, hoping to sever his attachment to you. I never expected that Lu Ji would actually be willing to die for you. Ha 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 ha. The ghost-faced man burst into sudden laughter. You really are naive. Did you truly think I'd give you a choice between the two? The ghost-faced man's tone was laced with scorn. I'm your enemy, not your parents. Why would I be so kind to you? Why would I spare one of them? He changed the subject. Or you could trade yourself for the two of them. 1 for 2, what a bargain. A shadow of gloom flashed across Shinjun's face. He gripped the sword at his waist tightly but didn't move an inch. The masked man sneered. See. You don't dare. You only get one chance. You know. As soon as the words fell, Xia Zhannong and I were pushed off the cliff at the same time. The masked man leaped down after us. No. Shinjun's desperate scream was carried by the mountain wind. Mist shrouded our figures. And the man in black falling below gave me a thumbs-up signal. Huh. One of our own. Damn it. Why didn't you say so sooner? I've been worrying for nothing. It was a close call, but we landed safely. Old JIS martial arts skills had actually returned. Thanks to that pill that made me want to die every night. We tied up Xia Zhannong, who had fainted from the shock, tight as a drum, and took him straight back to the Prince Chang's mansion. Old Ji pulled out a small notebook with worn, white-edged corners and crossed out Xia Zhanning's name. The pages were densely packed with names everyone involved in the Hua family massacre back then. Lao Ji hadn't spared a single one. Determined to uproot the problem completely, if I may ask. I'm not on that list. Am I? The ghost-faced man rubbed his hands together, asking with a pleading expression. No problem. What's your name? I'll add you to the list. I said with a smile. Haha. To be honest, I share the same name as this gentleman here. The masked man replied, thinking on his feet as he hurriedly pointed to the very last name on the list, the only one left uncrossed, Qin Juinhe. I shoved Xia Zhannong, who was clinging to his stomach in terror, into the cell. Lu Ji was bound to a frame, with a bucket of water suspended above his head, dripping drop by drop onto the same spot. In that spot, the flesh had rotted away, and the white bone was faintly visible. He stared intently at the approaching droplet, his eyes bloodshot. The droplet fell. Ah! He let out an uncontrollable scream. Then he began staring at the next drop. This cycle repeated endlessly. His sanity was on the verge of collapse. Xia Zhannong covered her mouth, her whole body trembling. Xiao Xiao Ji. Lu Ji's bloodshot eyes turned to the right. Upon seeing her, a glimmer of light flickered in his lifeless eyes. Cease. His voice was hoarse, like sandpaper. The 7 days are up. I leaned against the doorframe and spoke indifferently. Xia Zhannong, are you going to switch places? Xia Zhanning's body went rigid. She dropped to her knees with a thud. No. I want switch. Please. I beg you. She knelt on the ground, trembling uncontrollably. These past few days hadn't been easy for her, but they were still far better than what Lu Ji was enduring. She had been assigned to tend to Lao Ji's body lamps, the people who had once harmed the Hua family. I had gouged out their eyes, sliced off their noses, and severed their limbs, turning them into human pig lamps to be kept in a pen. She was so terrified that she suffered nightmares every night, fearing that she would be next. Big sister, we had an agreement. Lu Ji's gaze was shattered, filled with disbelief. Back then, it was Xia Zhaoning who endured the water drop torture. After 3 days, she broke down, crying and begging me to spare her. I said, "Sure, find someone to take your place." She immediately crawled over to Lu Ji, her face streaked with snot and tears. "Xiao Ji, big sister really can't take it anymore, help me. Let's take turns, at least that way we can catch our breath." Lu Ji looked at her tears and nodded. But now, Xia Zhaoning has gone back on her word. Sometimes I really admire your long-distance manipulation skills, how you've managed to make Lu Ji so utterly devoted. I'd love to have that skill myself. If I could control a 1,000,000-strong army to storm the imperial city, I wouldn't have to go to such lengths. The Hu family raised him for over a decade and still couldn't tame him. Xia Zhaoning, I'm counting on you to train this dog. I gave a sinister smile. I just want to watch them tear each other apart. Xia Zhaoning looked at me as if I were a demon. But she still walked step by step toward Lu Ji, holding a red-hot branding iron in her hand. Big sister, how could you do this to me? Lu Ji's face was smeared with a mixture of tears and blood. I did it for you, I'd do anything for you. Shut up. Xia Zhaoning lost her composure. If the Hu family adopted you, you should have stayed there. Why did you come looking for me? How could I possibly stay there and be your child bride? Why do you have to cling to me like this? I always thought you had your reasons. Hu Qianqian only saw me as a pretty pet. But I thought you were different. Big sister, I thought you treated me like a human being. He cried out, his eyes filled with the despair of shattered faith. Big sister, why did I have to hurt the Hu family and hurt Qianqian for your sake? Why? His body trembled uncontrollably, his gaze vacant, filled with remorse and resentment. Did I force you? Xia Zhaoning screamed. You're nothing but a dog that can't tell who its master is. You brought this on yourself. Who's to blame? You traitor. Who would want a stupid dog like you? You worthless mutt. You'd better mend your ways. Her face twisted into a ferocious grimace as she pressed the branding iron hard against his chest. In an instant, the stench of burning flesh filled the cell. A few days later, a servant came to tell me that Lu Ji had gone mad. He truly believed himself to be a dog. I had him tested. He barked like a dog, crawled on all fours, ate slop while lying on his stomach, was docile and loyal, and would wag his tail pitifully at anyone who approached. A human-shaped dog, how amusing. I had Lu Ji washed clean and his wounds tended to. It's a pity his handsome face is ruined. He came over to lick my shoes. I kicked him away. How ugly. He curled up into a ball, letting out a wounded whimper. Are you going to keep him? Xiao Ran was frail, yet he came here every day to drink tea and chat. Now he was wrapped entirely in a fox fur robe, revealing only a face like that of a fallen immortal. His usually cool gaze was, for once, tinged with disdain. To be honest, I'm quite afraid of dogs. He pressed his lips together, and his already pale lips turned even paler. No sooner had the words left his mouth than Lu Ji, in the corner, instantly bared his teeth at him, letting out a fierce growl from his throat. This dog is interesting. He tries to curry favor with everyone, yet he bares his teeth only at the Prince of Qing. Take him away. I waved my hand impatiently. From now on, whenever His Highness the Prince of Qing comes, lock him in his cage. The servants immediately stepped forward and dragged the still whimpering Lu Ji out. The weather was growing colder, so Xiao Ran and I retired to the inner chambers to discuss matters. We hadn't been seated long when we heard the sound of claws scratching at the door, a rustling, frantic noise. He was desperate, trying his hardest to make a commotion, yet afraid to bark, lest he anger me. Soon, the servants dragged him away, cursing as they went. You beast! How did you sneak out? How dare you cause trouble at a time like this? The crack of a whip rang out, followed by a wail from outside the door, a sound that was human yet not quite human before it quickly faded away. I thought to myself that this dog was quite clever. Even while locked up, he knew how to open the door and escape. Oh. Waith was human to begin with. Look at my memory. The crack of a whip rang out, and a wail that was neither human nor beast came from outside the door. You dog. You're not being very well behaved. King Ching lifted a cup of hot tea to warm his hands and cast a casual glance outside the door. I placed a piece on the chessboard, completely unfazed. There's still one left. No rush. We have to let the three of them reunite. After all, don't underestimate the bonds between them. This time, I was shaken awake. Opening my eyes, I found myself staring into Xiaoran's face, mere inches away. The cold, otherworldly face from my dream gradually merged with the one before me, and for a moment, I couldn't tell whether I was still dreaming or awake. I forced myself to suppress my morning grumpiness. Why are you disturbing my sleep in the middle of the night? He seemed taken aback by my familiar tone and asked softly, Who did you dream about? I dreamed about you. His ears flushed instantly. His clear, luminous eyes fixed on me as he spoke uncertainly. Ching Ching. Have you been reborn too? But that nickname made me jump. Why are you blushing like a teapot? Who's your Ching Ching? Aren't we just a purely professional partnership? To my surprise, he immediately adopted a look of hurt and sorrow, as if I were a heartless woman who had led him on and then abandoned him. Is that really how you see me? Before I died, you told me with your own mouth that you loved me, and that you'd come find me sooner in the next life. But I waited and waited, only to have you pretend not to recognize me at the palace banquet. He let out a long, desolate sigh. My whole life I've truly placed my trust in the wrong person. Wait a minute. My brain can't keep up. We actually had that kind of relationship in our past life. It's all this lousy dream's fault it hasn't even reached the finale yet. And here I am getting such crucial information. What about Shinju and He? Did I end up with him in the end? I was desperate for spoilers and pressed him for answers, but he dodged the question, looking at me with a pout. You remember them. Yet you've completely forgotten about me. Stop pretending. I sat up in bed, watching him warily. You barged into my bedroom in the middle of the night. What exactly are you here for? The vulnerable, aggrieved expression on the Prince of Chang's face vanished instantly, and his tone turned icy. Actually, I'm here to kill you. My blood ran cold, and I instantly pulled the dagger from under my pillow, pressing it against his throat. He, however, laughed bitterly. You really are a heartless woman. If I truly intended to kill you, I would have done so long ago while you were asleep. Why wait until now? He lowered his gaze to the dagger in my hand and murmured, In our past life, I died by your hand. My hand trembled, and the dagger nearly grazed his skin. What? Ching Ching. I ask for nothing else. His expression softened instantly as he leaned in slightly. The crisp scent of white plum blossoms washed over me, and that cold, pale, beautiful face, bathed in moonlight, looked like a soul-stealing spirit. In this life, I only ask that you give me a little of your true heart. Even just a tiny bit would be enough. Whatever you want, be it a kingdom, power, or revenge, even if it's everything I possess. Take it all. He slowly took my hand holding the dagger. His fingertips were slightly cool as they interlaced with mine. I've only just come of age. I've never encountered such masterful seduction. My head spun, darkness engulfed my vision, and I fainted from the overwhelming sensation. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in a dream. These dreams have been happening more and more frequently. I suspect the grand finale is approaching. Xiaoran and I sat facing each other in the carriage. He held a scroll in his hand, keeping his distance from me, dignified and proper. His clothes wrapped tightly around him, not a trace of the reckless man who had climbed into my bed in the dead of night. On the surface, he was so proper. In private, he was utterly devastating, relying on the fact that no one knew of my existence. I stared at him without restraint, Miss Hua. He called me softly, his tone restrained and distant. What are your plans from here on out? I heard Lao Ji answer calmly. Naturally. To leave the capital. I only hope the prince keeps his promise and hands Shinjuanhe over to me. I saw Xiaoran's grip on the book tighten. So we're still strangers even as the final act unfolds. That scoundrel really did deceive me, back when I was feigning madness at the Shin residence. I took the opportunity to plant a forged letter accusing him of treason in a secret compartment of Shinjun's study. Now, that letter lies on the emperor's desk. Shinjun's reputation, which he cherished above all else, is utterly ruined. The wheel of fortune has turned. And now it is his turn to face an imperial decree ordering the confiscation of his estate. The Prince of Chang's visit was to deliver that very decree. Shinjuanhe was driven to rebellion. He mobilized the imperial guards to surround the palace, forcing that tyrannical ruler to kneel at his feet and write an edict abdicating the throne. It was only then that I truly saw this man for who he was. Back then, when he turned his blade against the Hua family, it was never for Xiaozaning sake, it was for military power. To eliminate the Hua clan, the only family capable of standing on equal footing with the Shin family. Marrying the world-renowned Xia Xiaoning was merely a ploy to earn a good reputation and win the hearts of the nation's literati. He had lain low for so many years, long since securing control of the court. The world knew only of Chancellor Shin, not of the imperial Xiao clan. He had been waiting all along, waiting for a natural disaster or man-made calamity, waiting for public discontent with the tyrant to reach its peak, waiting for the moment when the people's hopes would converge upon him. But before he could wait any longer, his plans were disrupted by me. The roles of virtuous official and rebel were reversed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ji, his most trusted right-hand man, was dead. Xia Xiaoning, the wife he used to build his reputation, had vanished. The tiger token, the object of his deepest obsession, was now in my hands, and I had given it to his archrival, Xiaoran. Qian. Come here. Shinjuanhe saw me standing beside the Prince of Qing. His expression was a kaleidoscope of emotions as he reached out to me, his eyes brimming with a final glimmer of hope. I picked up the longbow beside me and tried to draw it, but my tendons had been severed in my previous life, leaving me utterly powerless. I turned my head and called out to Xiaoran beside me. Hurry up and give me a hand. He froze for a moment upon hearing this, then obediently placed his hand over mine. My back pressed against his chest, and our breaths mingled. Two sickly wretches strained with all our might, finally drawing the bow as taut as a full moon. I aimed at Shinjuanhe and released the arrow. The arrow pierced straight through his right hand, and the immense force sent him crashing to the ground, cutting through the crowd. I locked eyes with him. He looked back at me and gave a sorrowful smile. The last of my enemies taken down. I had finally settled the score with my younger self. Later, after regaining all my memories, I came to understand how my younger self had crawled out of hell and turned his life around, step by step. Back then, I survived by feigning madness and playing the fool. Lu Ji took me to Springcliff Mountain to seek medical treatment for my mind. Halfway there, he received news that Xia Xiaoning was in danger. Without a second thought, he rode off on our only horse, leaving me alone on the mountain. The spring chill was biting. My body was weak from having just had my martial arts abilities stripped away. My shoes were worn through, my feet bleeding profusely. Cold and starving, I eventually collapsed by the roadside. When I awoke, I found myself lying in a carriage lined with snow-white fox fur, enveloped in the crisp scent of white plum blossoms. It was Xiaoran's carriage. His health had always been fragile. He too was on his way to Springcliff Mountain to seek out the reclusive divine physician when he happened upon me. People say that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has the heart of a bodhisattva, and his appearance is as compassionate as a bodhisattva's. What they say is true. At that time, he was the only one in the entire realm who could stand toe-to-toe with Shinjuanhe, whose power dominated the court and the country. Before getting out of the carriage, I lingered inside for a long time, acting shamelessly, and finally decided to take a gamble. I had nothing left to lose. What could possibly be worse than this? I placed my trust in Prince Chang and told him where the half-tiger token was hidden. Xiao Ran, however, said he could arrange everything for me, keeping me far from all this turmoil and guaranteeing that Shen Juanhe and Lu Ji would never find me again. All because my father had once done him a favor. Yet I willingly became a pawn. I returned to Lu Ji of my own accord and went into hiding. Perhaps I had fallen so low that they assumed my life was already over. That's why they didn't suspect a thing. And that's how I found the chance to take them down one by one. In the dungeon, Shen Juanhe was disheveled and filthy, chained to the wall, having long since lost the dignified air of the former chancellor's son, brother Juanhe. Look at yourself. How did you let yourself get into such a state? You used to be so particular about cleanliness. Even a speck of dust on your clothes would make you change your entire outfit. I crouched before him, twirling a whip in my hand, my smile gentle. He hung his head, saying nothing, as if he had long since lost his soul. Just 15 minutes ago. I forced him to kneel at Kaishiku and watch with his own eyes as the entire Shen clan was dragged one by one to the execution ground to be beheaded. Not even his 2-year-old nephew was spared. It was exactly the same as what he had done to the Hu family all those years ago. Blood streamed from Hai's eyes, and he kept repeating the same phrase over and over. I was wrong. It was my fault. I couldn't stand seeing him look like a dead man. It made torturing him a real drag. So I spoke my mind, and it brought him back to life. Who the hell would ever love you? I belittled him while I whipped him. You're always putting on that miserable act. Like your whole family's dead. Oh, right. Your whole family is dead. Congratulations, now you can sit down to a family reunion dinner whenever you pick up your chopsticks. You know what? You've annoyed me to death since I was a kid. Do you think I kept Lu Ji around just to amuse myself? It's because looking at you all day makes me sick. I'd already made up my mind to raise Lu Ji elsewhere. You, on the other hand, just wanted to marry Xia Xiaoning and call off the engagement. I could have given Lu Ji a proper status. Why did you have to raid my house? You men are so calculating. You're a lecher. A scoundrel. May you die a miserable death. What kind of person are you? Who would want to be your cow-wife? I'm begging you. Stop being so disgusting. Okay. I wish I could be as confident as you. Shen Juanhe suddenly raised his head, glaring at me with such intensity that blood-stained tears streamed down his face. His lips trembled, but before he could utter a word, rage caused him to cough up blood. Ah, that feels good. That's the look I wanted. I love it when you hate me but can't bring yourself to kill me. I locked Shen Juanhe and Lu Ji in the same cell. As soon as Lu Ji saw him, he lunged forward and bit him, leaving his mouth covered in blood. The next day, a guard reported that Shen Juanhe had choked Lu Ji in the middle of the night, nearly strangling that mad dog to death. Meanwhile, Xia Xiaoning was trembling in fear in another cell, amidst the daily terror. She suffered a miscarriage. I never imagined that in my past life, I would end up becoming empress. I needed power. So when Xiao Ran asked me what I wanted, I said, I want to be your empress. He was silent for a long time, but eventually nodded in agreement. The first thing I did was clear the Hu family's name. The second thing was to tie Xiao Ran to the bed on our wedding night and take full advantage of him. It wasn't until I became pregnant that I sent Xiao Ran on his way with a cup of poison wine. His bod was already on its last legs, so I thought it best to end it all sooner rather than later. Before he drank the poison, he didn't reach for the yellow sash. Instead, he grasped my hand and asked, Qian Qian, in this lifetime, have you ever loved me even for a single moment? I remained silent then, and I never answered, not even as he closed his eyes, carrying his posthumous child. I became the Empress Dowager ruling from behind the curtain. In the end, I was poisoned with a gut-corroding toxin by a eunuch named Wei Chao. He was the most fanatical and ruthless among Xia Xiaoning's countless admirers. He was willing to castrate himself just to enter the palace, all to avenge his one true love. Step by step, he climbed to the position of chief eunuch, serving me day after day. In the end, I was still betrayed. Fortunately, by that time, I had already tortured my enemies to death, one by one, and I had lived long enough. When I died, I still had a smile on my face. Finally, I could go to the underworld to see father and mother. I missed them so much. Then, I woke up. I sat on the bed, dazed for a long time, momentarily unable to tell. Was I that Empress Dowager who had ruled the court for decades, having seen the full extent of human treachery? Or was I Hu Qianqian, the unmarried, headstrong, and vibrant eldest daughter of the Hu family? 30 whole years had passed in the dream, but in reality, it had been only 3 days. This dream was too long, so long that I had retrieved every single memory from my past life. I pulled back the covers and stepped out of bed. The confusion in my eyes vanished completely, leaving only a piercing chill and unwavering resolve. Strike first. In this life, I will reclaim everything that belongs to me. In my past life, I was the Empress Dowager. In this life, I will be the Empress. I found Xiao Ran and cut straight to the chase. This empire belongs only to me. Hu Qianqian, do you intend to challenge me for it? He merely smiled and cleared his throat twice. Why would I waste my limited time on such a burdensome task? I only wish to spend my days with the one I love. As he spoke, he gazed deeply into my eyes, recalling his untimely death in the previous life. I pressed my lips together. What do you want? I asked. I want to be your imperial consort. He smiled brightly. Of course. I have no desire for the throne. It was the exact same conversation as back then, only with the roles reversed. The tyrant was consumed by wine and women, and the court had long since rotted from within, with the Hu clan holding military power and Xiaoran aiding me in secret. Within a few months, I had taken control of all the troops in the capital. On the day of the coup, clad in silver armor and wielding a long sword, I led the Hu family's troops into the palace. All the officials in the hall knelt, while the incompetent emperor, paralyzed with fear, slumped in his throne, stammering, Hu Qianqian, how dare you commit treason? I produced the edict to depose the emperor, which I had prepared long ago, and forced the incompetent ruler to affix his seal. Not a single official dared to object. Any who did had already been beheaded by me outside the palace gates. Liu Xi struggled in the mud of the border garrison, facing adversity. He relied on the knowledge from his previous life to lead the border troops to several victories. But as a backdoor climber, he was always looked down upon. His will to survive was surprisingly strong. Even now, he was still holding on, refusing to die, but I would not allow it. So I sent men to cut off his head, sending him to meet the king of hell with a clean, decisive stroke. As for the Shin family, I had them all executed to the last man, before I could make other arrangements for Shinjuanhe. My subordinates reported that he had taken his own life in his room. In his hand, clutched tightly until his final breath, was a hairpin token of betrothal from long ago. As for Xia Zhanning's fanatical followers, I ordered my secret guards to kill them one by one. Following the list. Why such ruthlessness? Simply because I learned one thing from Lao Jai: when you act, you must uproot the problem completely, especially Wei Chao. I had him locked in the dungeon. He followed in the footsteps of Shinjuanhe and the others from my previous life. I spared only Xia Zhanning. I forced everything from 1,000 years in the future out of her mind, making her teach people how to farm, how to smelt iron, and how to make new farming tools. I established modern schools where both men and women could enroll. I reformed the imperial examinations so that both men and women could enter the court as officials. Didn't she love being a talented woman? Loved being adored by others. In this life, they'll make her nothing more than a tool trapped in the workshop for the rest of her days, toiling like a beast of burden for the sake of my great Qi dynasty. Her contributions will be immense, yet her name will never be known, deposing the tyrannical ruler and establishing new policies. 3 days later, I, Hu Qianqian, offered sacrifices at the temple of heaven and ascended the throne, becoming the first empress of Great Qi. On the day of my coronation, the crimson walls stretched for miles, and the palace lanterns shone as bright as day. Clad in the imperial robe and crowned with the imperial diadem, I stood in the hall of supreme harmony, receiving the homage of the court officials. Xiaoran stood by my side, his eyes filled with an unwavering tenderness and weariness. From that day forward, there was no longer a Miss Wuqianqian of the Hua family. There was only the Empress of Daqi, reigning over the realm, and those who once loved me, those who once hated Methi, all ultimately became dust beneath my feet. Mere footnotes in this era of peace and prosperity. Extra chapter. Being Empress is so much fun. It's that time of year again for the Imperial selection. I held the roster, my eyes darting from one name to the next. This one delicate features. Keep her. That one graceful posture. Keep her. And this one, she plays the zither, composes poetry, and looks like she stepped right out of a storybook. Keep. 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 One for me. One for my husband. One for the young lady. One for the old man. One for the solitary one. One for the widow. One for the sovereign. When Zhu whispered from the side, "Your Majesty, you've already selected 37. Without looking up, I replied, "Only 37, with 3,000 in my harem." This is nothing. Just as I was getting into the swing of things, hurried footsteps sounded outside the door. "Your Majesty, it's terrible." Emolan ran in, panting. "The Emperor's headache has flared up again. He's in terrible pain and wishes for you to come see him." Reluctantly, I set down the register and ordered the procession to the Weiyang Palace. Weiyang Palace. Xiaoran lay slumped on the couch, his face pale, his brows slightly furrowed, looking like a sickly beauty who evoked pity in anyone who saw him. I walked over, sat down beside him, and took his hand. Another headache. He opened his eyes and looked at me with a pout. "I heard your Majesty was selecting concubines today and having a great time." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so he's jealous." "It went okay. I selected about 30. About 30. His reaction was intense. His voice even grew shrill, his pale face flushed with anger, though his voice was surprisingly strong at that moment. I continued. "Some could write poetry. Some could dance. Some could play the zither. And there was even one who could wield a sword." The more I spoke, the more his eyes welled up. He was on the verge of tears. I stifled a laugh and changed the subject. "But as soon as I heard you had a headache, I sent them all back." He froze. "Sent them back?" I nodded. "A king's word is his bond." His eyes slowly brightened, like a puppy that had finally been reunited with its master. I reached out and pinched his cheek. Satisfied. He smiled, his lips pressed together, his sickly pallor vanishing in an instant. He leaned in and wrapped his arms around my waist. Then, Your Majesty. Tonight. I pressed my hand firmly against his face. Don't get carried away. I'm here to treat your illness, not to offer comfort. Don't let Xiaoran's frail appearance fool you. He's actually quite resilient. His cold-related ailments have been thoroughly cured since his rebirth. He blinked, looking utterly innocent. Your Majesty, I really do have a headache. Fine. Fine. I believe you. He fell silent, burying his face in my lower abdomen and chuckling softly. I raised my hand to massage his temples. He suddenly spoke up. Your Majesty, will we hold the selection again next year? Of course. He stiffened for a moment, his back going rigid once more. I replied calmly. Once the selection is over, they'll let you withdraw again, so you can have a little fun every year. He lifted his head and stared at me blankly. Then his eyes welled up with tears. Then shall I pretend to have a headache again? I raised an eyebrow. Next time, pretend your legs hurt. Why? Because then I can rub your legs for you. His eyes lit up, and he immediately began whining. Your Majesty, my legs hurt too. I clamped my hand over his mouth. Enough. Pretend that. And you'll sleep in the side hall tonight. He fell silent immediately and obediently lay across my lap. I looked down at him. His eyes were closed, a smile still playing at the corners of his mouth. I smiled too. What's wrong with being a tyrant for a moment to win a bowtie smile? What's wrong with holding a beauty pageant and toying with my ministers? What wrong have I done? The setting sun outside the window slowly sank below the horizon. Back then, he entered my harem with the empire as his dowry. Yet to this day, the elders of the former dynasty still curse him as a disgraceful descendant. I cut out their tongues, one after another. Being an empress is quite satisfying, but the most satisfying part is that this empire is mine. And he is mine too. I can spoil him however I please. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you.